But we got to talk about the closing bell because it's 4 o'clock on this Monday, and we have those equity averages pretty much closing just off their best levels of the day, Matt.
That's right. Let's take a look at the action here as the trading settles in. The S&P 500 gaining 0.9% at 927 there. Take a look at the Dow gaining 91 points. It's finishing really at a session high there at 85.29. And finally, the Nasdaq gaining about 1/3 of 1%. It has been the laggard all day, but you see it here closing out at 1844.
Yep, when it comes to stocks, we're up for our 4th day out of 5. Let's talk about major industry groups within the S&P 500. The 10 major S&P groups, all in the green, led by those financial and energy names. Each of those groups up about 1 1/3%.
All right, now stocks rose today after posting a 2-week decline. If you just look at the weeks, obviously back to back, although last week wasn't really so bad. Lydia Thew standing by the New York Stock Exchange with more on today's trade and really the trends of the floor, Lydia.
The trends of the floor, Matt. Well, you're right. Last week wasn't a huge decline, although it was the only back-to-back weekly decline we saw since March. So for that reason, people thought it was somewhat meaningful. Now, I must say today was one of the more noisy days I've seen on the floor in quite some time. First of all, we did get the Madoff sentencing. There's lots of cheering and clapping after he did get that 150-year sentence. And then we did talk briefly about that car chase that some folks were checking out. It is the summer, folks. You can definitely tell it's July 4th week. However, today we did manage to eke out a gain here. Pretty broad rally, actually. All 10 groups in the S&P on the rise. In fact, the S&P 500 is headed, assuming that we have another gain tomorrow, or at least we hang out where we are here, S&P is headed for its best quarterly gain since the second quarter of 2003 at least. So today, strength was pretty much in financials, utilities. Energy stocks were pretty strong throughout the day. That's as we did see that gain in crude oil. We also did get some interesting news on some major U.S. companies like Apple. For instance, CEO Steve Jobs apparently back on the job. That's according to Apple. He's been working both at home and at the office. That's, of course, after his liver transplant. And that stock got a pop after that report and then sort of actually ended the day a little bit lower. Ford also, they got a boost to apparently, according to their sales analysts, their sales forecast. The stock, actually, Ford stock rising on the day as a result of their sales forecast. He's saying that June sales may have fallen as little as 10%. So he's saying the worst may be behind us, according to the sales analyst from Ford there.
Hey, Lydia, hold on for a second because we do have some earnings coming. We know Alcoa is going to be the big one in about a week, but Apollo Group reporting their earnings for the third quarter, $1.26. That compares with the analyst estimate of $1.12, so coming in better than expected. So, Lydia, I'm going to go back to you. Earnings will soon be the focus, in just a few weeks for all of us. But on the floor, the focus was car, chases. So in addition to car chases, sports games, and whatever else comes up this week, what else are traders focusing on? We've got the jobs report later on this week.
And that seems to be the real focus of the week. I was talking with Alan Valdez of Hilliard Lyons. He says it's going to be a pretty quiet. I mean, we do get a fair amount of economic data, but he says from a trading standpoint, he's expecting it to be a relatively light week with a fair number of people actually out of the office or off the trading floor. But he's expecting for that jobs number to be pretty much a focus of the week. Not surprising considering that, consumer spending, et cetera, very important to our economic growth. One more thing I did want to point out, we keep mentioning it, but the Vix Volatility Index, I've gotten lots of analyst notes on the VIX falling to the lowest since September 12th. Dean Kernot, who writes a report for Macro Risk Advisors, saying investors seem a little bewildered at the fact that this Vix Volatility Index has fallen so quickly, but he's looking at it as a sign that investors are just getting exhausted of trying to bet against this market. So kind of interesting, definitely a key metric to watch.